All right, so welcome back to a brand new unit we are jumping into. So we're still in the unit of sickle cell disease. We've learned in last unit about the disease. We learned a little bit about the components of blood. Now we are in this unit called It's in the Genes. So we learned last unit that sickle cell disease is a genetic disorder, meaning that it is inherited. It can be passed down from parent to offspring within the genetic code, within DNA. And then this leads to problems at the cellular level and at the protein level because that defective gene or that genetic mutation that causes this disease causes the protein hemoglobin to be made incorrectly. So, hemoglobin within the bone marrow is synthesized. And if you have the disease, it is synthesized incorrectly, which causes all of the problems that we have learned about in the last unit. It causes those red blood cells to become sickled shape, clogging up the bloodstream and causing all those problems. And again, that goes back to just one protein being made incorrectly. And this protein, hemoglobin, is found within your red blood cells. So since this is a genetic disorder that we are learning, it's important to review what we've learned so far about DNA. So go ahead and pause this video and think about the answers to these questions. You do not have to write them down or type them up, but it's good to go back into your notes and get your brain thinking about DNA. Okay, so DNA, what is it? What is it made out of? It's a molecule, a very long molecule that's found in each and every one of your cells in your body. All living organisms have DNA, and it's a molecule that holds the instructions for your cells to build proteins. So that those instructions are written, so to speak, in the sequence of nucleotides, A's, T's, C's, and G's. Do you remember those? Adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine. So where do we find DNA? As I said, it's found in every single one of your cells. Which cells? Every single one. And that is true for every living organism, from simple single-celled bacteria to complex organisms such as ourselves. All cells contain the genome, the genetic information for that organism. So what makes your DNA different from the person sitting next to you or from someone else or from some other organism? It has to do with the sequence of A's, T's, C's, and G's. And your sequence is 99% around there, around 99% similar to every other human. It's small single nucleotide differences that create all the different genetic variations, all the different traits that we see in the human population, like blue eyes and green eyes, etc. So what is the relationship between DNA, genes, proteins, and your traits? Well, your entire genome is all of the DNA inside each one of your cells. So your cells contain a whole copy of your entire genome, the instructions to make you. Genes are segments of DNA that code for a specific protein. How does that relate to your traits? Well, we are mostly made of proteins. So if you change the instructions in DNA, you change the instructions on how to build a protein, and then you could essentially change the trait. And that's what happens with genetic mutations. That's why we see variations within a population, because there are small nucleotide differences in DNA which result in the change of these proteins being made, which results in the change of physical traits. Okay, so it's important to remember, why are we learning this? Well, hemoglobin is a protein. Therefore, there is a gene for hemoglobin. And in this genetic disease, there's one single nucleotide within the sequence for hemoglobin that has been mutated. And that causes one amino acid within the protein to change. That single amino acid change causes hemoglobin to stick together within a red blood cell And then that red blood cell slowly becomes sickled shape and then causes all those physical symptoms we learned about last unit. So one tiny difference in DNA causes a very serious chronic genetic disease. So this lesson that you are going to start today, activity 3.2.1, is all about how your cells read your DNA and build the proteins that it codes for. So this is a process called protein synthesis, and it's oftentimes referred to as a central dogma of biology because this is how all life is made. Every single living organism contains DNA or RNA or a mixture of both, and in result, those cells are able to make proteins, make the organism. This is a really key concept that will follow you throughout your entire study of any sort of biological sciences. So you'll see this again in your biology class if you take AP Bio. You'll see this again if you continue learning more biological sciences like other Project Lead the Way classes. So it's almost like learning addition in math class. Is very important. It's a key foundational skill and knowledge to have. Okay, one thing I want to quickly introduce to you before you get into this lesson, you are going to be introduced to another molecule called RNA. And RNA is similar to DNA, except for it is single-stranded. So it still has the nucleotides. The exception is thymine T, right? We find that in DNA, is replaced with uracil, U, okay? So that's something I wanted to show you now before you jumped into the lesson, so you don't get confused when you see certain parts of the videos talk about RNA. Think of RNA as like a photocopy of a gene, so the cell can read DNA and make a photocopy of it, essentially, so to speak, and that's called RNA. Okay, so go ahead and dive on into activity 321. Make sure you pay attention. Definitely take your time. You have 3 distance learning days to get through it. I've shortened it up due to distance learning. Remember my office hours through WebEx at 1 to 3 every day if you want to stop on in and ask me any sort of questions. So good luck and have fun.